Blog Talk Radio.
Recruiting Animal here on September 16th, September 16, 2020. Hey, on social media, you're going to see lots of complaints that recruiters don't give any feedback to candidates when they interview for a job. They don't give them any, why didn't I get that job? Recruiters don't say, right? And people always wonder why, okay? On my Facebook group last week, a recruiter explained why. Here's what she said. I used to give feedback, but so many people acted like Linda Blair in The Exorcist, I just got tired of it. I got tired of being covered with green pea soup. I could be delivering gentle, helpful feedback, and the nice candidate would suddenly become possessed almost immediately, she says. Okay, another recruiter says, I love the ones that start arguing with you, like that's totally going to make me change my mind. Another recruiter said, I used to do that, but I didn't want to debate. So now I just tell them that the client said they're not a good fit. And one guy said, yes, you should give feedback, but use the compliment sandwich format. Now, that's the most bogus, the bogus thing. You say something positive, then you say something negative, and then you say something positive again. Like they're going to swallow that. I liked your shoes, and they did reject you, but they really liked your hair as well. Okay? Yeah. That's going to satisfy somebody. No! It's like some girl telling you, yeah, she really likes you as a friend after you ask her out. It's going to make you feel real good. Not. Anyway. Jerry, what shall I say?
The recruiting animal.
Thank you, Jerry, for that wake up. Anyway, who do I want to else thank? I want to thank staffingdebt.com. If you've got a collection, if you're a third-party agency recruiter and somebody cheats you, they hire your candidate and don't pay you, these guys specialize in doing collections for recruiters. The boss there was on the show about a month or two ago. I thought he was great, Wilson Cole. So staffingdebt.com. They also have backdoorhires.com, software that actually tells you when you've been cheated. PCRecruiter.net. They are the Swiss Army knife of recruiting software. And in case you don't know what a Swiss Army knife is, it means they're highly customizable. They're flexible. They do everything, okay? Honeit, HONEIT.com, the online interview technology. I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. And HireTool, HIRETUAL.com, the super-duper sourcing tool. And that's a perfect intro for our guest today because he's a super-duper sourcer. Glenn Gutmacher. Am I saying your name right, Glenn?
Anything but nutcracker is just fine.
Okay. How do you say it?
I go with the more German Gutmacher.
Yeah, Gutmacher. Okay, that's what you want to be. German. Okay. So for your Twitter, you've got two accounts. There's one is Gutmac, and the other is Glenn Gutmacher. Which do you prefer?
I prefer the first one, which I created originally, and the only reason I have a second one is because I accidentally created a repeating loop through some programmatic software once.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that.
Twitter.
I'm not interested in that, okay? You just said, okay, Gutmac is what you want. If you want to criticize Glenn during the show, and here's something else. He's fussy, but I don't know, where did your parents come up with two N's, Glenn, Glen? Did they plan just so everyone knows you're not Glenn Cathy? Is that the idea there?
No, dude, one N means my total name would be 13 letters, and Mom thought that was unlucky.
They wanted an intelligent son, and they're superstitious like that. Okay, you want to plug something. Go ahead. Now's your time.
I was one of the original presenters at SourceCon back in 2007, and this year's edition is digital, but I think everyone should still go, particularly if you've never been to a sourcing conference before. If you think you're a great recruiter but not necessarily a sourcer, you will learn a lot there.
Okay, where do they go to sign up? What's the website?
SourceCon.com.
Okay, and if they can't figure it out, they don't deserve to be there. Okay, that's if they've already given them SourceCon.com. Okay. Are you ready? We're going to start the questions now.
Let's do it.
Let me just see if anybody came here. I have to open area code 619. Is that Kendra?
Animal.
Oh, Candy!
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, but I just want to say, if there's only one reason to justify the price of SourceCon, that's to meet Glenn. And he is fabulous. You will learn a ton, and I adore him. I respect him highly.
Yeah, okay. I mean, did he pay you? Did he pay you to show up? You're not going to meet him. You know, like, are these SourceCon?
I have met him.
Okay, I didn't mean that. Okay, yeah, but they all like to hug. That's the impression. These sourcers are very huggy, you know. They're not going to get that this time. I know. I don't.
We'll have to do virtual elbow bumps or something. But hi, Glenn.
Here's something. Okay, Glenn, you got a fan. You got a fan here. Okay, here's something I found interesting. Glenn gives out advice on Quora about how do I get a meeting with a billionaire. Okay, if you want to do business with a billionaire, hold on, who's giving me that? Is that Kathy? Is that you already screwing up?
Why don't you mute me, please? Just mute me.
I'll come back, though, in case you're still here. Okay, I'm going to put you on hold. Okay. So he gives out advice on how to meet with a billionaire. It's kind of a trick answer, though. Go ahead, Glenn. You remember what you said? I
do not, so please share.
He's all over Quora. I don't know why. I think maybe just, to be popular. He says, look, don't meet with the billionaire. They've got at least one organization under them that's very large. And, look for some people 1 to 3 levels down. Okay, he says, I'm going to tell you how to get a meeting with a billionaire. And the answer is don't even try. Am I right about that, Glenn? That's what you say. It's a trick answer.
Yeah, I agree. Make friends with people at a level where you can make an impact, and then I think that will bubble up to the head guy eventually.
Yeah, if you're lucky. Okay, look, is this true? I mean, we hear all these stuff over and over again, and nobody ever tests it to see if it's true. I've always been told that A players refer A players, and B players refer C players, or sometimes it's a different version. A players hire A players, B players hire B players, and C players never get to hire. Is that true? If you bring in go ahead.
It's true to the extent that if you're secure about your own self and your performance, then you're more likely to bring on other people that are equally good or better because you're not threatened. So you would assume that if you are an A player yourself, then you're more likely to be one of those self-confident
So if you make
people.
a conditional like that, if the person's got a secure personality or a professional identity, then it's not you can't generalize like that. You're saying something completely different, okay? If someone's very good technically, what you just said, they're not necessarily going to hire somebody as good as them or better unless they don't have any personality problems. Okay, here's another question.
Correct.
Do Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, and Google suck up the best people because of their deep pockets?
I think if you are facing competing offers with a candidate and they're against you, you're probably going to lose in most cases. So, Sure, that's part of it.
Okay. These are little quickies for warm-ups. If you don't like them, just tell me. If the hiring manager, but these are real things what people talk about. If the hiring manager wants to know the candidate's last salary, what should the recruiter say?
The employer wants to know the candidate's salary?
The less salary, it's a big issue now. It's illegal in some places. I think it's illegal in Massachusetts where you are, or New York for sure. You can't ask the candidate, what are you earning now? Or what were you earning when you were working? What?
Right. You only ask about desired compensation, for sure.
Okay. But the hiring manager wants to know. He says, Glenn, before I see this person, I want to know what they're earning. What are you going to say?
The pace of change in the world of business is fast, and that drives incredible complexity for the world of human resources.
Welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast, a series of conversations with experts inside and outside the world of HR on how to innovate, measure, and evolve our practices.
Our goal is to help provide you with practical examples of how HR has to change to meet the complexity of the business environment.
Every week, we'll talk to new and different voices on all aspects of HR.
And at times, we'll get irreverent.
Silly even.
And sometimes geek out on the data and technology that underlie the processes that drive the world of HR.
But the conversations are always insightful and fun. So please, enjoy the HR Data Labs podcast.
Well, in our place, we wouldn't submit somebody who's way out of range. Maybe they're at the top of the range.
How do you know? Okay, you ask them what they want, right? But the hiring manager might want to know what they're earning now. Don't dodge the question, okay? Answer the question I'm asking. Don't make it like with that billionaire thing where I'm going to tell you how to meet a billionaire and then you say don't. Okay, that's not what I'm asking you now. I want to know that the hiring manager says, Glenn, what's she earning? What do you say?
Yeah, I think that's going to bias the process, so I'm not telling you.
Okay, I know what you're going. Okay, you don't want to say that. The right answer is I'm not telling you, hiring manager. Okay, is that what you're saying? You would tell the hiring manager? You're not getting that information. Is that what you're saying?
Again, I'm not the primary recruiter. I'm the sourcer, so I'm not in that situation very often.
Oh, cop out. Phil from London, did you want to say something? Is someone else talking there?
Yeah, no, that was me. So you would say to the hiring manager, I can't tell you what he's earning, but I can tell you that I've asked him, the package that we're offering, is that good for him? Is that a big improvement? Is that a sideways or a backwards improvement? And that's what you need to ask.
In other words, you say, you never use these words. I'm not going to tell you, or I didn't ask the candidate. Kathy, do you have an answer to that question? Kathy, do you want to say something before I move on?
No, I just agree with the responses that you've gotten so far, because you can't ask them.
Yes, you can. It's legal.
I like how
it's legal.
I'm sorry, the guy with the guy with the accent. I like the way that he presented it, whether the package would be
with that classy accent. Okay, you're going back on hold, Kathy. You're back on hold. Let's move on.
You're the ones with the accents.
Yeah, I got the message. Okay. Glenn, here's another one you answered on Quora. Are there months during which candidates are more likely to hire? Are recruiters going to do better business during certain months?
Yeah, I think there's a natural tendency among candidates to reevaluate their career status over the holidays. If you're Jewish, you might actually even be doing it right now because this is the new year and you're thinking about your future. Birthdays are another popular time to reevaluate. So I would go after any of those.
You doing that?
Hold on a second. Wait a second. This isn't the candidate we're talking about. It's the company. Our company's more likely to hire during certain months. Do you want me to tell you what you said on Quora? Do I have to remind you again?
Dude, I haven't posted on Quora in a long time, so yes, you'll have to.
That's not true! You posted in August, okay? Here's what he said. He said there are 3 months when companies are more likely to hire, but there's a trick. They might not be able to bring you on board until they have the money. So they actually might start looking, in September, but not really want to bring anybody on until the new year or something like that. Okay, here, Glenn,
right,
now we'll get to sourcer stuff. What?
But that's important because you want to know when the bonus cycle is paid out at that company because they will want to collect that before their start date with you. So you just have to be aware of that timing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm losing you. Okay. I don't feel I'm connecting with you. Okay. And I'm very happy you're here. Okay. Here's a question I hope you're going to get excited about. Okay. What is a recruiter for? Doesn't the sourcer do the real recruiting? They find the person, they do the screen, they say, this is a qualified candidate, and then they hand it over to the recruiter. What does the recruiter do? Just talk to the hiring manager? Is that it? The recruiter's more of a bully, and they can put the hiring manager in her place? What does a recruiter do that adds value?
Well, I can't speak about every company, but certainly at ours, they have pretty wide awareness of various roles that a candidate's skill set might be applicable for. So when one of my sourcers turns over a candidate, it may actually be a better match for something else that the sourcer's not aware of. So we do trust the recruiter to make those matches.
Okay, that sounds still like a lightweight responsibility. It really does. The recruiter, she's not going out and finding the people, which is the hard part, then doing the initial connect, again, doing the screen, qualifying them. Why is there a recruiter? It's a waste of time. Although, again, maybe it's someone who can push the hiring manager around, push the candidate around. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think those are the roles, but I wouldn't diminish the value of those. I think they're very important. Okay. So it's a tougher personality than the introverted sourcer. Is that what you're saying? Although I don't think a sourcer has to be introverted to be successful, but I agree that it's more likely for recruiters to be extroverted and sourcers introverted.
Okay, let's grade the show so far. These questions aren't turning you on, are they? Show me on a scale of 1 to 10. 10, you're ecstatic. These are just the questions you want to answer, and any number below that. Give me a score, okay?
I'm going to go with 2 pi.
Okay. Sourcing advice to newbies. You actually get on Quora. I thought that's what you'd like. You gave some advice to newbie sourcers. Do you want me to read it, or do you remember what you said?
I'm sure that's years ago, so no, you can go ahead.
Okay, you said type sourcing Boolean tutorial in Google search. Type sourcing Boolean tutorial in Google search, watch the free videos, and read the step-by-step blog posts. There's a lot to learn. And blah, blah, blah. So it's that simple, though. You would give the same advice today, wouldn't you? Just put sourcing Boolean tutorial in Google. Is that right?
Well, there's so much out there now that I think you can actually learn a lot that way, but I do want to make sure that you have the fundamental qualities of what makes for a strong sourcer first.
Which are?
Can we go into that? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So curiosity. You've got to be someone who just likes learning new stuff.
Who isn't curious?
No, I mean to an almost obsessive level, because you've got to be willing to dig in those different things that you find and make some mental leaps to connect disparate pieces of data.
Next. Okay, next. How do you tell if someone's curious? Let me ask you that. Okay, let's take that. How do you tell if someone's curious?
So I will ask them about something completely new that they had to learn and ask how they went about learning it. And hopefully they will share some creative methods for getting up to speed.
Give me an example of an answer you've got to that question.
So someone may be forced to learn how to deal with online learning, and that was not their modality up to COVID. So that's pretty common, I guess. And in those circumstances, I want to see them either talking to people that went through that transition. I want them to search for articles.
Okay, I'm moving on. I'm wrecking this show. I'll take responsibility. When was the last time you could not find a suitable candidate?
So you can always find suitable candidates, but does the hiring manager think they're suitable? And that's the problem, is this 80-20 thing, where I know I can find someone who's 80% qualified against your specs, and I think they should be able to learn the remaining 20% on the job. But some hiring managers will push back on that.
Now, how do you put the hiring manager in her place when she's saying she wants a perfect candidate?
So this happens a lot nowadays, where diverse candidate slates are becoming a requirement. So I may, if I'm supposed to find someone who's within salary range, then I'm not going to be able to get somebody who's already doing that job and is a superstar, because there's no stretch for them to take this role because they're already doing it. I'd want to pick somebody who's, a half or one step down from that job level, who will see that role as an interesting challenge, and they're going to be more affordable. And if they're going to be diverse, then even better.
Okay, why does this become more relevant during diversity? You just said any job. It sounds like you just said any job is going to be of more interest to people for whom it's a step up. They don't have everything. That's who a job is going to attract, people who don't have everything. If they got everything, why would they want to take that job? It's like a lateral move for them. So why are you saying it's of particular interest for hold on, I've been scolded by this woman on my group. If I say diverse candidate, she gets mad. If I say diversity candidate, she gets mad, even though everyone knows what I mean. Is there something wrong with those terms?
Well, then I guess you're going to have to criticize the U.S. government, because they use the terminology as well.
Oh boy, you've got to give me the source so I can slam those into the comments and say, "Here, live with it, baby." Okay? So back to the question. Thank you, Glenn. Go ahead.
So, yeah, this 20% gap, I agree, is true for anybody who's one level down. But if your goal is to increase consideration of diverse candidates, then it's going to be happening an increasing amount with those diverse candidates.
Why? Are the diverse candidates less skilled generally than other candidates?
No. If anything, a diverse candidate who's fully qualified for a role is probably being hounded with multiple job offers. They're going to be one of the most expensive people to get.
Uh-huh. So why did you bring it up now?
Because I think every company now is facing increasing scrutiny around their diversity interviewing and hiring practices, and I want to remind them that this 80% is a great opportunity to increase that diversity.
Okay. Now, you actually put this into your service level agreement for, right, with the you're dealing with sourcers, and the sourcers, they don't hand off their work to a hiring manager directly. They hand it off to recruiters, right? So you have a service level agreement, right? And one of the things is that the conflicts are usually caused when, I don't know if it's the hiring manager or the recruiter, it's just like you said, too picky. An 80% match is you're not saying it's just good enough, it's best, right?
Yeah, I think you want to have that stretch opportunity as an appealing aspect of the role. And we
So how do you get the recruiter or the hiring manager to agree with you about that? Glenn, I don't want someone who's second best. I want someone who's got everything I want. Okay, what are you going to say?
And I can say that person will have everything you want once they've been on the job for a little while, but you've got to be open to the fact that having everything when they come in the door is going to be prohibitively expensive and be a much longer search to find the person who wants that position.
And how successful are you selling that idea? And do you deliver it in the same even temper that you're using on me, or do you get a bit excited and say, "Look, pal, I want you to recognize the truth. This is what it's like. You're on your ivory tower. I'm in the front lines." Do you put it to them like that, a little heavy-handed, so it has an impact?
Yeah, I'm willing to push it because I know that that's the direction the company wants to go. We have diversity goals in place. They're publicly stated. We have a CEO who's even said at a company town hall that we should be interviewing these 80% candidates. And So
I don't know why you
leveraging
keep if
all of those
it's
leaders.
generally a good practice to hire people with 80%. I don't know why you keep referring to diversity candidates, but I'm going to let that pass. I'm just going to go through your other stuff. You also say for each candidate, the sourcers have to submit a resume, phone screen notes, and they have to cover these topics. Is the person qualified? I assume that's technically. Are they interested? Are they available? And are they affordable? Those are the key issues you want, okay? And then the recruiter that your sourcer is handing the stuff on to has to reject or accept every candidate in 2 business days. What happens if the recruiter doesn't get back to you in 2 days?
Well, the sourcer and recruiter are in pretty regular contact during an assigned search. So I think they will probably have checked in with them anyway if it slipped their mind or they were busy with other stuff. Sometimes the recruiter's
so that's just
on
a
vacation,
hypothetical,
whatever.
but it's not a real issue then. Okay.
It hasn't been
Okay.
a problem, no.
Okay, but you say as well, if they reject someone, they've got to give you good feedback.
Yes, these recruiters who just tell you, no, we're not proceeding, that's not enough. That doesn't make you a better sourcer because you don't know what it is that was missing so you can search better the next time.
Okay. And then you track the ratio between candidates the recruiter accepts and candidates that the hiring manager actually interviews. So you're looking to see if something goes wrong between the recruiter and the hiring manager. Am I right about that? In other words, you track the number of candidates, good candidates, to interview. Is that right?
Yeah, you could have fall off at any stage in the candidate journey, but I find the biggest one that affects sourcers is that drop off between recruiter accept and hiring manager interview. And there's lots of things that can cause that drop off, but that's usually what sinks a good sourcer.
Okay. I'm going to do an ad, and I want you to think about what kind of topic would excite you. I'm so happy to have you here. I want you to come back already, but I'm not going to get you back here unless we talk about something that's of interest to you, okay? So first I'm going to talk about Honeit, HONEIT.com. Honeit is online interview technology. You and the candidate get on the Internet together and talk, and it records your whole interview. It does it in audio, does it in video, and it supplies a searchable transcript. Not only that, when you get to the key questions, you press a button. When you finish talking about that issue, you press another button. It creates a little clip. You send it to the hiring manager. She can listen to the candidate in her own words, with her own emotions, reflecting her passion for whatever it is that's most important in this job. Okay? And not only that, Hire Tool, HIRETUAL.com. It is the super-duper sourcing tool. Every sourcer, I'm going to speak for Glenn, every sourcer always talks about it when there's a discussion on Facebook. What are the good sourcing tools? Tools, always one of the sourcing tools that everybody is enthusiastic about. Okay, Glenn. What do you want to talk about? Oh, let me check with Kathy first. Maybe she's got a question. Kathy, is something you want to say, Kathy?
No, I'm going to have to leave early, unfortunately. But
okay, Kathy,
great
I am
guest.
just happy. I'm happy that you're doing well. Okay, I'm happy
Thank
that
you.
you're doing well, and that your kids are doing well. Okay.
Thank you.
You take care.
Okay.
I'll put you on
Bye.
hold. Phil, is there something you want to talk about? Phil, do you have a question? You got the super sourcer here. Okay. No. Falling asleep? Okay, back to you, Glenn.
Let's talk about the evolution, because when you mention things like Hire Tool, I'm thinking back to the pre-millennium when sourcing online was new. We called it internet recruiting back then, and everything was extremely manual. But the methods that we used even back then in the 90s still work today, just with very slight tweaks. So I think the people who learned how to do online sourcing back then are well equipped today, and I actually feel bad for some of the younger sourcers who just feel like they can rely on a tool to do their job and that they're going to be effective because they don't have the other fundamentals.
Example, that's the name of the game on this show. What are you talking about, really? Well, I don't know.
Well, let's look at things like Hire Tool, right? If that's the only thing you use, or maybe it's that in LinkedIn or something else, do you really know what to do when you get a hard-to-fill search where the candidates you want don't...
Give me an example.
You could have a really narrow kind of online footprint job, like cleared candidates with a very narrow skill set. Those people you can't just go search for people with TSSCI, in Fort Meade and expect to find a bunch of LinkedIn results or even Hire Tool results. It doesn't happen.
Matt Charney say on Twitter once that anybody with a 7th grade education could do sourcing?
Yeah, well, his posts generally piss me off, so I'm glad you brought him up.
So you don't agree with that?
No, well, only to the extent that you do need to be self-motivated to want to keep learning. That's the curiosity part we mentioned earlier that makes for great sourcers. But there's still plenty of material available that if you are taught it or you somehow get it in a way that is more efficient than trying to hunt for everything on your own.
How many hours do you have to put into learning in order to become a good sourcer?
I think the good versus great is an important distinction, but good, I would say you probably can get there with 1,000 hours of combined learning on the job.
1,000 hours learning on the job. I mean studying. If it's now September, if I want to become a pretty good sourcer by the end of the year, how much time do I have to put in? Studying, not working, studying.
Well, I think you have to put it in practice to make it useful. I mean,
well, you're going through Shalley's book or Irina's books or courses or something like that. I mean, you're probably trying stuff, so let's just assume they go together. How many hours? Okay, you don't want to answer that question, right? Okay, let me ask you another question. Coming back to curiosity, do you ever use personality assessments? Do you like them?
Hey, this is William Tinka. Listen, we did a series for iSolved called Heroes of HR, where we talk to HR practitioners. And these are just your run-of-the-mill, everyday, slogging it out, 300 employees in Cedar Rapids, HR pros. Mostly it's centered around iSolved and what they do with iSolved, but also they talk a lot about kind of the day-to-day rigor of HR. If you're curious about that, search for Heroes of HR wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you.
The online tools I've seen, I think, are not quite there, but I haven't paid for the super duper versions that I believe are out there.
You know what? We had Thomas Chamorro Premisic on the show a couple of times. He said for $100 you can get a pretty good test. And like he used to be a VP at Hogan Assessments.
So is that a test for one particular job function?
Well, that's for the person's overall personality and I don't know, I've never done a test, so their inclinations, I guess. You'd certainly openness, the big 5 personality traits. What you're looking is for someone who's open, right? You're familiar with that?
Yeah, I think that's right. I know generally where you're going with that. I don't think one assessment is going to tell you enough about the person. You want to know what is the personality mix of the top 10 people in that job function at your firm, and then compare that with the candidate. If you have a way to scale that, and I know there are vendor tools that do that kind of assessment, I think that's the way to go.
Okay. What are your 10 personality traits or whatever traits you're talking about? Since we're going to give you credit for being a super sourcer, okay? What are your traits that you would want to see replicated in somebody else?
So, yeah, I think it is that stick-to-itiveness, and the curiosity. It's also the ability
when you were 5 years old, did you take apart clocks just to see if you were able to put them back together again? I mean, what indicators from your background would say this guy's especially curious?
Yeah, I actually was that kind of kid, although I probably did it more with Legos and popular mechanics kinds of stuff. But yeah, you've just got to be someone who doesn't mind spending hours until they figure something out, and not everyone has that dedication level.
Yeah, I just find that I can't figure out, if someone's that kind of person unless I hire them and see whether they're doing it or not. I don't know how you can assess that in advance. It's you haven't given me any good basis for doing that. Okay.
Well, especially
what about automation? Hold on. Talking about hire tool. Hold on. Talking about hire tool. What about this automation threat? Do you think AI? I'm reading somebody else's question. Is going to make the sourcer extinct?
Well, no, because as I said,
hi Jerry. Jerry's open. Go ahead.
Man, this is boring.
Yeah, you're open. Yeah, well, you ask him a question, okay? I'm not a sorcerer. I'm falling down on the job, Jerry. That's what your job is here to ask him questions.
Who is our guest today, Animal?
Glenn Gutmacher. Come on. He's a fantastic sorcerer, senior VP.
I'm sorry if you can't really hear me. I'm at the pool at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas.
Yeah, well, we're having some trouble. There's a lot of background noise. Yeah, okay, maybe I should put you on hold. Maybe I should put you on hold. Okay.
Yeah, hi, Glenn. This show sucks, though.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. I accept responsibility. But, Jerry, you don't even show up till halfway through the show, and then you say I'm at the pool, I can't help out, okay? And then you go on Facebook and say it's your show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. And I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah, okay, I'm putting you on hold. Yeah, Glenn, he's got too much noise there. I like Jerry. I think he adds a lot to the show, but not today, okay? Automation, quick answer. I got to do an ad.
It's fine for the common roles. It will definitely add value and save a lot of time, but there's still tougher kinds of searches where sourcing skills will be required.
Okay, if they have better technology, if it's getting better all the time, what percentage of your staff do you think you could cut if you just need the people who can do the really special stuff?
Compared to today, I'd say probably a quarter will disappear, but they will potentially move into other kinds of roles where more engagement is needed, because now you're going to have a higher volume of leads coming in, but someone's still got to assess it, and I don't think chatbots do that as well as we need to yet.
Okay. These are the questions I'm going to ask you after I do this ad. How did you become interested? How did you become interested in your field? What experience helped you develop the skills needed to excel in it? And what are the key principles for success in this field? I think you've already stressed curiosity. I copied this from somewhere, okay, an article, how to get to know someone really quickly. Okay, so curiosity, you've said it a few times already, but so how did you get interested and what experience helped you develop the skills you need? First, I'm going to do some ads for PC Recruiter. Our good friend Marty Snyder, he's over there as the boss, okay? And he always says it's a Swiss Army knife of recruiting software. That means it's customizable. They don't impose any kind of workflow or structure on you. You configure the software yourself. If you're afraid to do it, they'll help you, right? And it doesn't matter if you're at a kitchen table or in the basement of your mom's house or or the garage. They will help you even if you're a nobody or if you're part of a big team. Okay, PCRecruiter.net. And then there's Hone It, the online interview technology. It records your interviews, audio, video, full transcript, and you can create clips. Hire Tool, HIRETUAL.com, the super duper sourcing tool that's going to put, you just heard it, 25% of Glenn's staff out of work. I hope they're not listening to the show. And finally, who's my other, staffingdebt.com. If someone cheats you and you're a third-party agency recruiter, they're going to get your money for you. Okay, back to you, Glenn. How did you get interested in your field? Glenn went to Yale, okay? Everybody has to know that. He's a smart guy. How did you get interested in this?
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think to succeed at a top college, right, you've got to have really strong research skills, study skills, be able to do a high volume of work. So all of that, I think, contributes to the kinds of things we need to do as sourcers. And, of course, I also
hold on, Glenn. Wait a
being
second. I'm going to claim that you're probably the only sourcer in the world who went to Yale, and maybe the only sourcer in the world who went to an Ivy League school. Okay? Do you think that's probably true?
No, there are definitely others, but
who else? Who else? Come on, name it. Who? You don't know anybody. I got to tell. Hold on a second. Irina is a professional mathematician. Okay, maybe her. Right?
Okay, it's really not hard. You can go on LinkedIn now, search for sourcer in the job title field, and type Cornell or any of the other Ivies in the school field, and you'll see results.
Yeah? You can't name one. I came up with something. What about you? Come on. You can't name it. You're making a claim that you can't support. But anyway, let's move on. Okay, so you going to this college, that's proof that you've got the traits required. How did you get into the field?
Like anyone else, you can't major in it at Yale. So it was when I arrived at a newspaper chain in '96, and they were starting their online properties. They were trying to convert all of those sections of the newspaper into internet, and the help wanted section, of course, lent itself to an online tool. Back then, the only other things around, I think, were Online Career Center and Monster. So we were the first newspaper chain on the East Coast to do it, and that was my job, is to partner with entities for the resume database functionality, the job posting functionality, and marry it together with some content. And when I was doing that, all of our print advertisers for Help Wanted were saying, okay, this is interesting. We'll try it out. We know you. We know Monster. What else can we do? And that's when my research skills kicked in. I said, what else can we do online to help recruiters and companies? And that's when I discovered that you can do Boolean search on search engines. Of course, this was pre-Google, so we were using things like AltaVista to find people, but a lot of the same methods that we used back then for Boolean work today.
Uh-huh. And when did you meet Shally? Because he was doing this around the same time as you, right?
He was, yeah. I turned my learnings into a course that I offered at the newspaper company. We sold seats to it, actually, and became a standalone product. He was doing training for corporations, and we both had e-newsletters that we were sending out in the late 90s to tell people about, internet recruiting, as we called it then. So we became online correspondents, but it wasn't until 2005 when Walmart Corporate asked me to come down to Bentonville to train their recruiting team on sourcing that I realized this was going to be too big a job because there were 70 people to train. So I asked Shally, who was also a good phone sourcing trainer, whereas I was only really an online trainer at the time. I said, can we split this up where you'll take half the group and I'll take the other half of the group, and we'll swap at the midpoint. You'll do the phone methods, I'll do the online methods. And as it turned out, he leveraged that as an audition for me to bring me onto his sourcing team that he was forming at Microsoft. So I ended up joining Microsoft full-time under him shortly after.
Okay, and he was working for Rob, right?
Yeah, so we all rolled up to Rob McIntosh, who I think many people know. I've since had the opportunity to work for him again when he was the head of recruiting at Avanade, which is my job before my current State Street role. So, yeah, those connections definitely have paid off over time.
And Jim Stroud was on that Microsoft team as well, right?
He was. We had some superstars back then. So Jim and I were both the online researchers. We had phone sourcers we fed our leads to. They had people who shopped the candidates to the recruiting teams.
And who else was there? Was Ronnie Bratcher there? Was Ronnie there?
No, Ronnie wasn't there, but the very first AIRS trainer, Otis Collier, was on our team. He's a pretty famous, or was a famous name back then. He's kind of moved on. So I'm not sure who else you all would know.
Okay,
from that group.
Was that the first at Microsoft? Was that the first internet sourcing team in the world?
No, there were definitely others, but it was
which
one of
ones?
the first
Who?
using.
Where? Who?
No, Microsoft had it before. So there's a guy named Eric Jaquith who actually did the initial training of the sourcers at Microsoft in the early OOs, and he's fabulous. I mean, still a very leading light.
Yeah, I've always heard of people raving about him. He lives in Atlanta, right? Okay, so Shally didn't initiate the sourcing team at Microsoft. Eric did, right?
Well, Eric was brought on as a consultant, but they did a reboot when they decided to centralize the sourcing model globally under Rob and Shally. So that was the first time.
Yeah, you see how I'm having a fight with you a bit to get the info. Let me ask this question again, okay? Was that the first full-fledged online sourcing team in the world?
I doubt it, because people had been training.
I'm going to make it your mission. I'm going to make it your mission to find out, okay? I'm going to ask the question online, but I want you to research it as well, okay? You don't have to, but I'll leave it with you, okay?
I know all the original trainers. Back then, you could count them on one hand. It was Barbara Ling, Jerry Crispin, Shally, Brett Hollander, and Judy West, and that was pretty much it, training people on sourcing. So the companies that they helped develop probably had the first teams. Which one was as full-fledged a model as Microsoft? I don't know. I guess Shally might claim Cisco was, because he was there before Microsoft. And he also, I think he did stints at Google as well. So, yeah, I'll do some digging. I'll get you an answer.
Okay. What about this statement? LinkedIn has created a generation of helpless, namby-pamby recruiters. You sort of said that yourself. You said kind of the same thing in a more modest way just a few minutes ago.
I mean, if anyone is using LinkedIn as their only crutch, then they're really shooting themselves in the foot, because you cannot find everybody that you need for all the tough searches that are out there. You'll just miss people, because the online footprint provided by LinkedIn is not complete for many people.
What percentage of candidates that people are looking for are not findable online with Boolean searches and stuff like that?
I guess I would say, if you use the definition that Maureen Sharib and some of the other top phone sourcers.
Well, Maureen's she's got an axe to grind with this. Go ahead, though.
Yeah, because she will call into a company and she can probably find twice as many names that she was not able to find searching online. And I think that's probably true. So when you run online searches,
wait a second. You said that she was not able to find. She's not a trained internet sourcer. What about that you or Shally is able to find, okay? Or Jim or one of these super sourcers. You're saying that you're only accessing half of the appropriate people. You're missing that many people, 50%?
Yeah, well, to do a really exhaustive search is not cost or time efficient, right? It's diminishing returns. After I get the first 30 to 40%, to get the next 30% is going to be.
Okay, so in other words, you're stating that you're telling me the obvious, right? That I didn't take into account when I made my statement. You're saying you don't really have to do such a big search to get the number of people you need. You don't have to access everybody in the world who can do X, Y, Z. You only need 10% of them, maybe, right? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, the more niche the search, then the more effort you'll have to put in to get the critical mass. I mean, if your company says we must have an interview slate of 5 candidates, that may be really easy for some roles, but very tough for others.
Okay. This woman said that she refused to do a higher view interview. For instance, you go online and you answer questions, and the webcam apparently has AI. Their software has AI, and it analyzes your facial expressions, but apparently it's not really good with dark skin, maybe because of the lack of contrast or something like that. So she refused twice to be interviewed that way. Do you think she was right or wrong? And if you think you're in dangerous territory by making a comment there, just say, look, I want to pass on that, because I would respect that.
Well, I will say, no, in general, face recognition technology is not that advanced. So we've had some really bad situations where search results based on faces are giving you some really bad matches. Like it's mislabeling the gender, it's mislabeling race and ethnicity. There were even some examples only a few years ago where it was mixing different animal species faces in with human face results. I mean, it was awful.
Yeah, you're talking about something different, okay? Because that's a search where they're bringing back animals. This is where you're talking to a camera and it's analyzing, I don't know what. Are you telling the truth, or what your personality is, and stuff like that. But I'll take that as the same answer. You're saying it's not advanced enough, even though they're selling it.
No, you're talking about even more advanced technology than just face recognition being accurate. You're saying we have to get the expressions right, and I'm saying that's an even harder challenge, so of course there are going to be problems with that at this stage.
Okay. Here's a Shally question. Tell me when you've had a difficult search that everyone was frustrated with, but you saved the day finding a great candidate. Did anything come to mind, a story like that? You can just say no.
Yeah, I think it happens more with diversity searches. So I'm often called in when the slate is not fleshed out enough and they only have their folks that they know from 10 years ago, and those are unfortunately usually white guys. So if we want to get a diverse slate, we're going to have to do some extra research. They're not going to apply naturally. So I'm often able to find those qualified diverse candidates so that the hiring team is indeed interviewing.
Why are you so good at it? What are you doing? What's your secret sauce, if you want to tell us?
I think a lot of the methods out there that are easily adaptable, that'll get you the most bang for your buck, is searching for a wide list of women's first names. So whatever country you're targeting, get a list of the popular girls' names from 30 years ago and do a big, long Boolean search in the first name field of LinkedIn. That's great for getting women. For people of color, you can look, for example, at the HBCU college names, because that's going to be a mostly African-American list. You can look at women's colleges' names. There are, for all the fraternities and sororities, there are a bunch that are just for Latinos or African Americans and so on, so you can search on those terms.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Susie Tonini told me the same thing in 2007. So you're going through these associations, and the thing is, you're not worried that there's other people who didn't go to a black university or join a primarily black sorority or fraternity. That's supplying enough. You don't have to worry about the other people who are outside of these specific identifiable concentrations of certain people, right? That's what you're saying.
No, I would love to find more people of color not at the schools that most people search on. That's what a good sourcer does, is how else can I find them? But I'm saying it will take more effort, and you have to depend on tools like HireTool or their competitors where they've got diversity filters built in that help them show you those results. It's not perfect, and there are false positive results, but it's going to unearth people faster that you would have missed otherwise.
Ironically, LinkedIn with the pictures does help in that regard. Pictures used to be considered taboo because of discrimination, right? And sometimes we would see people from other countries put them on their resumes, and it was kind of shocking. But now, everybody's got their picture on LinkedIn, and it might be something someone looking for a diverse candidate would use. Okay.
Well, of course, the pendulum's going the other way now. There are a lot of sourcing tools that are putting a cat photo instead of actual people photos just to level the playing field, because you wouldn't want somebody with unconscious bias to skip over somebody who doesn't look like them and thus they think may not be as qualified. It's the same reason orchestras suddenly were able to hire far more women once they put a curtain between the musician
you know what?
and
That
the
might
judge.
be, to tell you the truth, I know that comes from Malcolm Gladwell. Some of his stuff is being exposed as boobamizes, to use the thing. I don't know if that's true. I've heard it many times that they didn't have enough women. As soon as people who were judging the players couldn't see who they were judging, the diversity quotient went up. Maybe it's true. Okay.
Well, you'd like to hope that if somebody has a resume and the name is LaShonda versus, Laney, that you wouldn't think differently about it. You'd want to look at the whole resume first. But
you know
I'm
what?
afraid there are still
I'll
some
tell you,
people like that.
I heard that in the early part of the 20th century, there were a lot of ethnics who went into education in New York City. They were the children of immigrants, and the reason they were successful was you had to write a test, and your name, there was no identifiable information about your ethnicity. It was purely on merit. The same thing. This is an old story. Okay, before we're done, I want to get your input. Actually, I think I was going to start on this, and I put it off. Everybody's arguing now about compensation being linked to location, right? If Facebook, if you decide to move away from San Francisco, you have to tell somebody there that you're living in a cheaper place now, and they will presumably downgrade your compensation because they don't have to give you a bonus to live in an expensive part of the world. It seems to me that's fair because you're still making the same net compensation. Well, some people think it's outrageous. What do you think?
Hi, I'm Cole Napper, host of Directionally Correct, the #1 people analytics podcast in the world. Come check out our podcast that dives deep into topics like people analytics, workforce planning, and talent intelligence, helping leaders across the globe navigate the future of work with insight and a little bit of fun.
I know a lot of companies that have different market classifications. If you live in a certain city, that is known to require a slightly higher salary than a city that's known for lower cost of living. And so those salary offers will be automatically adjusted based on that location. So just the fact that you choose to move to that location after hire, why can't you retroactively put those same market rules in effect?
Okay. Area code 815, do you have the last question for Glenn? Any interest?
No, I was just going to mention this is Ernie Moreno. Hey,
hi, Ernie.
One thing when you talk about finding diversity candidates, I think the most obvious ones, especially for Hispanics, is if you write Spanish. A lot of people put Spanish on their background as a skill set, and you come up with
but hold on a second.
Number of folks that have that.
Hold on. Isn't the mayor of Los Angeles supposedly Hispanic, but he's really a white guy, right?
I don't know.
Garcetti?
No idea.
Garcetti? Isn't that his name? Take a look at his picture.
It could sound Italian too, which would not count as Hispanic. So look, you're going to get some false positives because it's how people self-identify. And this, frankly, has been a problem for many companies where you're pretty darn sure you got a diverse candidate, but when they apply for the job, they self-identify and say, I decline, to list my race, ethnicity, even military service or disability. So we have no idea if they're diverse when you search the system. And unfortunately, the way the legal rules work, however they self-ID is how they must be treated as a candidate. So
really? Okay, so hold
candidate.
on. You can't – hold on. Let's say someone's got the name Ernie Moreno, but they're really a white person, okay? Or they look white. I don't know. Let's say he's Ernie Moreno. He looks white. He maybe had one Hispanic really grandparent or something like that. Could he or register himself then as a diversity candidate, and you would have to accept him? Is that?
Yes, we brought that up with our own internal legal folks, and they've confirmed however they self-ID is how you must consider them.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And
really?
The other part of it comes comes from the fact that there are so many multiracial folks these days. Half black, half white, half Chinese, half this, half that, half Hispanic. It's you're not one side or the other anymore. And that's more common than what it was.
The good news for diversity counting is that someone who is multiracial would still count as diverse on the race ethnicity.
Yeah, but once they're only 25% of the diverse category, then they don't necessarily look like that race or that category of person. I don't know what I can say without getting into any kind of confusion. Okay.
Well,
but,
if you look at Hispanics, they're all the way from white all the way down to a dark complexion.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So that's why exactly what I'm asking. And in 2007, I published it today. I asked Susie. I said, "Well, do you have to ever ask somebody what their complexion is?" And she said, "No." And that's when she said, because she only, she'll go after people who are coming out of certain colleges or certain fraternities and sororities that sort of guarantees it. So she's doesn't have to ask that question. Anything else, Ernie? I wish you would have called sooner. You're a fun interlocutor. Anything else for the great Glenn Gutmacher? Go ahead.
But the other thing is that a lot of these folks that come out of them that are diversity are low income, and to join a sorority, it can be pretty expensive. So you probably don't want to just concentrate on that. You want to look at other things
got you,
like
Glenn.
organization.
I didn't get it. There, he's got you. It's the end of the show. You're lucky you don't have to answer about economic diversity. Glenn, I hope you come back. I'll ask Ernie to come earlier, and he's more interesting than I am, okay? Glenn, with a double N, Gutmacher. Thank you!
All right, so 18 years in the industry, started with the family firm, recruiting industry.
Oh, there you have it.
Jerry, wake up. You recommended this guy. Go ahead.
I mentioned it offhand when I was in a drunken stupor.
Don't ask Jerry for advice after 5 p.m. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, my God.